Once you get Bitcoin in self-custody, you are by default a quintillionaire.
Is it then possible to never having to sell your Bitcoin?
When you know that it's the scarcest asset of the universe, one may not want to give up on his coin. One solution for that is you can borrow cash against your Bitcoin, and then you can spend and get the goods you need. You've hodled enough. Start living, man. If you have a cash flow, if you work, you can basically pay back for your loan and keep the Bitcoin, because this will grow in value over time.
It's the same thing that people do with their stocks, the same thing that people do with their houses.
Another perk for doing such a thing is that you avoid paying taxes. If you sell an asset, you will have capital gain taxes on that. But if you borrow against this asset, you can spend the money, and as long as you repay your loan and you're not being liquidated, you don't have a capital gain tax. Bitcoin allows you to have access to the same strategy the really wealthy people in traditional finance have access to.
Hi Science, how you doing? Everything fine on your end?
Yes, I'm doing good. Thank you, Robin, for inviting me on your podcast.
Really cool. By the way, Science is an interesting. How did you come to call yourself Science Genial, or like how do you say it?
It's a weird and shitty story. I mean, I think it was back in the days when I was still into crypto, and I wanted to, draw a small character like a scientist explaining stuff. And it never happened. I never did it, but I kept the name. And the Genial is because, I don't know if you're familiar with Dragon Ball. And in Dragon Ball, you have the master of Son Goku, the main character, is called Master Roshi, but in French, because I'm French, we call him Tortue Genial. So yeah. I don't know why. I just decided it's going to be my name.
Oh, that's really cool. So you're also trying to keep your private distance and kind of be as private as possible in the internet sphere?
Yeah, I mean, I tried, but it's been 1 year that I show myself in podcasts, and you can see me in live events like Bitcoin conference and stuff. So I would say that I'm just limiting the informations that can be collected on the internet without directly knowing me. But it's not anonymous. I'm not anonymous, right? It's just pseudonymous.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Once you get a little bit out, it's almost like you're out completely, because like people see your face, people see things from you and can tie it to some things. So it's almost like you once you get out a little bit, you're almost incentivized to go out all in and have the benefits from having a name out there. But yeah, I see some people that do the middle path of try to be out there, be a person that is like you can see, but still try to communicate as little as possible from like their personal side.
It really depends on what's your background on the internet, right? If you have a past on the internet, basically, if you had a LinkedIn profile, and you have tons of pictures of you on the internet and all that stuff, it's really difficult. But I don't think, maybe your followers will prove wrong, right? I don't know, but I don't think I have that much pictures and informations about me. So yeah, I'm in between, because I show partially my face. I don't tell my name. I'm not really bothered if someone finds out who I am, but I don't have that much traces about me on the internet. So yeah, that's a whole topic.
Interesting. Yeah. I wanted to get into something different, but maybe that's interesting also to get down that road a little bit. Do you fear or do you foresee that there will be some sort of attacks against Bitcoiners? I mean, there has been already. So it's like there's a public log around that. But do you feel like there's bigger attacks coming against Bitcoiners down the road?
Well, that's an interesting question, but you need to explain what do you understand when you say attack? I mean, which kind of attack are we talking about? Like, you have to define who is the attacker. Is it the state? Is it someone who wants to rob you? Yeah, basically when we talk about attack, there is different threat models. So I would say I'm less worried about people wanting to rob me, or I don't have a lot of money, I don't care. Or yeah, I'm talking about Bitcoiners in general. I'm less worried about, yeah, robbers and direct attacks, and I'm a little bit more worried about state level attacks, especially in Europe. Feels like in America right now, freedom is the motto, but in Europe, it's more like when you are a Bitcoiner, sooner or later you're gonna be pointed out as the one at you like basically soon Bitcoiners will be the root cause of poverty and misery in in European Union, right? Feels like that.
Yeah, it's weird, but I do have a lot of hope because usually Europe is just lagging behind America, and America kind of gives the path forward a little bit. So I do have a lot of hope for that. But once we like, maybe let's look at that. Like, are you just worried because of the EU, or are you also worried when the government is trying to incorporate Bitcoin, embrace Bitcoin, and then kind of have attacks on that side because it's like a lower level of attack where you don't see it. It's not obvious. Like EU is obviously against Bitcoin, but if someone is for Bitcoin, they can probably attack it easily because you don't really recognize the attack that much.
I don't really have opinions on that. Like, if you talk about, the global movement right now with strategic reserve, maybe it's what you're trying to put on the table, but I'm not really worried about that. I don't think Bitcoin fits government needs, and I don't think self-custody is adapted to such large organizations. I mean, how would the government take custody of Bitcoin? I don't know. I don't know. That's a topic I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go deep into. But no, I'm more into the threat. Like, from one Satoshi you got fuck your money, and it's funny because once you get Bitcoin in self-custody, you are by default a quintillionaire. I don't know if you're familiar with the quintillion effect.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I'm more worried about it because central bank governments in collusion with quintillionaires, I don't think they will like concurrence and having people being a quintillionaire by default, just because they have the most scarce asset of the world.
Kind of empowers everyone. Like, even if you have a small amount of money, all of a sudden, everyone is on the same power level, and this is kind of frightening them. That will be really interesting. But you're doing a lot in the space. I heard like Lendersat you're involved. You're doing with DLCs a lot. Like it's almost like so much that it's hard to keep track. Like, what are the main things that you're currently doing?
If you talk about Lendersat is okay. Lendersat is a project right now. It's in beta, and the end goal is to have peer-to-peer Bitcoin collateralized loans. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but basically it's the same thing. In the US, when you need to get a loan, you will have a mortgage, and basically you will put your house on the table and say, okay, this is the guarantee, and if I don't pay back, the bank can seize my house and sell it to cover the loss. Bitcoin collateralized loans, it works exactly the same. And so far, it already exists, right? Bitcoin collateralized loans are something that we know for years. But when you need to get a loan against your Bitcoin, for now, you have to trust a bank or an institution or a company with your coins. It means that you need to send them the UTXO, and you will have your loan. And if they don't rug you or don't disappear, you will get your Bitcoin back after paying back your loan. Lendersat is trying to fix this, and yeah, there is a sentence for that. At Lendersat, we say we're trying to credit what Bitcoin did to money. Basically, we're trying to build a P2P market, self-custodial of Bitcoin collateralized loans. That means that, yeah, peers can lend to Bitcoin holders, and Bitcoin holders can keep the custody, at least the control over the funds, during the whole process using DLCs. I don't know if you want to go that far now, but
I do want, but maybe a little bit later, because I think the first thing we kind of have to cover is we always hear of not always, it gets less now, but we have BlockFi and Celsius and like 30 other smaller ones that all did the kind of the same thing, that got borrowing against your Bitcoin a bad name, a bad image. And that's why I think it has to be, as you said, self-custodial, and trying to make that good again, make Bitcoin borrowing safe again. I don't know if that could be a nice slogan.
Well, that's what I said earlier. We aim, that's a marketing sentence, but still it's true. We aim to credit what Bitcoin did to money. What does that mean? That means that if we want it to be safe, we need, by the code, enforce the fact that it's peer-to-peer. You cannot have a middleman here ragging or abusing his position to collude or to steal the funds of the others. Another thing that is important is, if it's peer-to-peer and you prevent rehypothecation, you cannot have paper Bitcoin, right? One of the biggest problem, if you look at the FTX catastrophe from I don't know, last year or 2 years ago, I don't remember. But the worst thing about trusting people with the funds is that they can rehypothecate it and basically create fractional reserves and paper Bitcoin. That cannot happen in a peer-to-peer market with the code enforcing the relationship and without any trusted third party.
That's a good point. Is it then also from possible to this concept of never having to sell your Bitcoin? You always hodl the same, like the sailor strategy that we want to have.
Oula, that's a hot topic. I mean, yeah, people can discuss that, because obviously you had a trend saying like hodl. You need to hodl and never sell. But then it has been replaced by spendle. Yeah, if you want Bitcoin to benefit from the network effect, you need to spend, you need to let the sats flow, and basically it has to circulate. I agree with both, and I think people should spend their Bitcoin in Bitcoin native businesses. There's not so many Bitcoin businesses right now. But you still gotta live. And how would you live, if you need to pay your rent, if you need to pay, I don't know, a car, taxes, you may need to sell Bitcoin. And that's really unfortunate. When you know that it's the scarcest asset of the universe, one may not want to, give up on his corn, right? So one solution for that is, you can borrow cash against your Bitcoin, and then you can spend and get the goods you need. Basically, you've hodled enough. You live now, start living, man, and pay later. That's the motto. And if you have a cash flow, if you work, you can basically pay back for your loan and keep the Bitcoin, because you know perfectly that this will grow in value over time. I don't know if I was clear.
Yeah, I think it's the strategy of not having to sell your Bitcoin and maybe like refine. Like it's the same thing that people do with their stocks, the same thing that people do with their houses and all the things.
That's a great point. I think Americans have an expression for that: buy, borrow, die. And basically, the riches in the US, I think we had a topic on that on X with Musk borrowing against his Tesla stock or whatever. But basically, in America, the riches they will borrow against their assets for a living, and they will not sell because this is where all their wealth is stocked, right? Another perk for doing such a thing is that you avoid paying taxes doing so. If you sell an asset, unfortunately, in Europe, in America, and in a lot of in many places around the globe, if you sell an asset, you will have capital gain taxes on that, especially obviously if this asset grew up in value. But if you borrow against this asset, you can spend the money, and as long as you repay your loan and you're not being liquidated, you don't have a capital gain tax on this operation. So that strategy is really known in traditional finance, and it's called buy, borrow, die. Basically, once again, Bitcoin allows you to have access to the same strategy the really wealthy people in traditional finance have access to.
Interesting. What is the interest rates that for your liking makes sense and doesn't make sense? Like where is the drop off point where like it's too high no matter what, and maybe under that it's more in the sphere, because it seems like lending out, especially with Bitcoin, you need maybe like a higher one.
I don't think there is I don't know what to answer to that, because the real answer is the market decides, right? I will give you a few examples. You have centralized banks and companies offering pretty good rates, but you have big trade-offs, such as the fact that you lose custody. Okay, you have the DeFi ecosystem. That's the other extreme, right? With very high rates, with the benefits of being no KYC and supposedly safe. It is not, right? You have in between different other type of solutions, such as escrow-based solutions. We can talk about, I don't know, maybe Unchained, Firefish. So basically, you have an escrow in the middle, and he will help the situation to settle in the case of a dispute between a borrower and a lender. And then you have other types of rates here. But if we talk about the future, I mean self-custodial, escrowless, Bitcoin collateralized loans, we don't have a clear idea of what the rates are going to be, because it's going to be self-custodial with far less risks, with no risks of dispute on the side of the lender. So maybe the lender will ask far lower interest rates because it's previsible for them. You can guess that. I don't know. If you listen to someone like Safety and Moose, he says that in the future, in the far future, the loans will get to 0% rate when we will get on the Bitcoin standard. But for now, one thing is sure: you have a lot of different interest rates depending on the model of the platform, depending on the conditions of the loans. And I have no idea what should be a fair rate. And I think the right answer is to let the market decide. I don't know if it's a satisfying answer.
What did Seyfriedin mean with 0% interest rate is like with Bitcoin?
I can only advise you to have a look to one of his videos. I think he did a conference. I don't remember the name of the conference, but the conference was about the end of usury with Bitcoin, and that on the Bitcoin standard on a if you have a long enough horizon of time, interest rate will tend to be zero on the Bitcoin standard. But I don't remember the exact name of the podcast. You can find it, and I think it's the one Safety used to promote his new book, The Gold Standard, which is a fiction. Yeah.
0% for me makes no sense. Like, why would someone do that? Like, why would someone give money for nothing in return?
I don't know, but I guess what's more important in that presentation is that the interest rate will tend to 0%, and maybe not absolutely 0%, right? But it means high trust society. It means high transparency society. It means that people on the Bitcoin standard are building and are producing value. And yeah, so basically that's a whole new paradigm. I can't tell if Safdin is right. I don't know, but it's very interesting to listen to him.
Yeah, it's a super interesting topic also, because you have on the one side, if it's all in a contract, escrow, DLC, whatever the technology is, and like on the lender side, you almost can't lose the funds. Like you cannot lose money. You can always kind of get it back. Then it's has very low risk, but at the same time, that the other side makes like almost a risk-free 30%, 40% return rate with Bitcoin. So like it will be really fun to see where the free market prices will end up with the interest rates.
That's really interesting, and I don't have the answer myself, because there is as much answers. I mean, everyone got different needs. At the end of the day, the market decide. Look, you could tell yourself, these people lending me USD, they definitely deserve to be paid a high rate because they take the risk of being exposed to the USD, right? You could tell that they are the one taking the risk, right? So they deserve to be paid. In the other hand, because you don't want to sell your Bitcoin, you want to keep it. You can definitely pay for your living using Bitcoin loans, but of course you could also tell, this is the most scarce asset of them all. The rate should be really low. Both answers are right. I don't know who is right. The market decides.
Market decides. That's the judge of our life, I guess. Is Lendersat already online? Is that available?
Lendersat is currently running its, we call it beta reloaded. That's the second phase of the closed beta. During this closed beta, we are shaping the experience. So basically, we are opening the borrower side and the lender side of the order book. We are acting as a blackboard. That means that trying the Lendersat beta, you can make loan offers, and borrowers can have a look to these loan offers, and they can request one of them, and then the peer-to-peer interaction happens. As long as we're in the closed beta, we are not running the full protocol yet. We're shaping the UX, and we're really glad that the users now give feedback, give suggestions, and tell us what's good and what's wrong, so we can make the perfect UX before getting public. And as long as we are in the beta, we are still working on an escrow model. Like it means basically you have a 2 out of 3 multi-sig escrow, and in the case of a dispute, we would be here, basically to make sure the money goes in the right direction. But in the future, once we get released, we will work on a DLC model, and basically it's a 2 out of 2 multisig. with an oracle in the middle. I won't go too much technical, don't worry, but basically it gets rid of us in the middle of our key. And I maybe, except if you want me to explain a little bit later what the DLC is, but I won't explain right now. Basically, it just gets rid of the man in the middle, us. You don't have any dispute anymore. One last thing to tell about this beta is that as a differentiator on Lendersat, we are building what we call the Lendersat store, and borrowers can. Okay, for now, loan offers are expressed in stablecoins, and we all know that Bitcoiners may be allergic to stablecoins, right? I don't like stablecoins and altcoins myself. This is why we decided to provide opt-in solutions, and borrowers can unilaterally ask for the loan to be disbursed. Say, for example, on a virtual card. We have a virtual Visa card, and borrowers can have this virtual Visa card and pay for things online without having to touch the stablecoins. Basically, the lender will fund the card for him. And it works. It works really well since the first phase of the beta. And we are currently working to add and integrate more spending tools, off-ramps, and also on-ramps to pay back your loan using credit card or bank transfer, so you don't have. So let's say the stablecoin and altcoin experience could be erased if you're allergic to it as a Bitcoiner.
Yeah, it's basically like if I think about borrowing against my Bitcoin and I want to do it, I want to do it in a way where I maybe have a card and directly can spend it with that credit card maybe. Because if I then get it on my normal bank account, I might get questions from the banks that I don't want to answer. Like it's a headache, and I show them documentation. It's all legit, but I try to avoid the questionings. And the other thing is, if it's a stable coin, then I also have to figure out how to convert it to a functioning credit card so I can spend it and can transact and can pay my rent and whatever I can pay. Like I think best would be really like just have like borrow against a Bitcoin and have a credit cards accompanied with that, where you can just pay wherever you want to pay with that. That would be, I think, the optimal case.
I believe so too. But what I want to do with the Lendersat store personally is to let the borrowers decide market rules as always. And we want to keep on Lendersat a layer 1 of the protocol on which anyone can come and borrow or lend without having to KYC, without having whatever. So it's always going to be permissionless. Then borrowers can, at their will, opt for solutions. Like I talked about this virtual card. This virtual card does not require any documents. So it's basically no KYC. But in the future, we may add, I don't know, off-ramps. Like you don't want this, you don't want to have a virtual card, you want to have cash in the bank. We could add different solutions, off-ramps, I don't know, Bull Bitcoin or Mont Pelerin or Relay. I don't have any deals with them. I just giving examples right now. But why am I saying this? It's because we don't want to force the relationship with the borrowers. And if a borrower likes to use a solution, whether it's KYC or not, whether it's bank account or not, whether it's KYC or not, he should be free to do so. That's why, we believe in letting them choose and having a store of different solutions. Basically, they will select what suits best, conditions, fees, whatever.
Free market at its best. I think that's really cool. Maybe let's go now into... sorry.
Well, I just want to add something on this. Since remember, it's at the end of the day, it's just an order book, right? People lending, people borrowing. Having these plugins, basically these spending tools and off-ramp solution, borrowers can opt in unilaterally without fragmenting the order book. that means at the end of the day, the order book is still Bitcoin and stablecoins. And it would be a nightmare to match the different spending tools if it was on the lender side. No, we decided to put it on the borrower side unilaterally. So hopefully we can capture the market and have the deepest liquidity market as possible.
I partnered up with Coin Vigilante. This is the most beautiful Bitcoin timepiece that I ever saw created by anyone. Look at that beauty. I love it so much. Coin Vigilante made a perfect Bitcoin watch. That's the perfect, subtle, elegant way to go out there and show that you are a Bitcoiner. And that watch brand is Bitcoin only. And Coin Vigilante just dropped a completely new and amazing Genesis edition of their watch collections. You have the date of the first ever mined Bitcoin block in there, and of course also the block height and which epoch we are currently in. I love the level of detail they put in this masterpiece, and make sure to check out those amazing Coin Vigilante timepieces down in the descriptions. I love those watches so much. If you watch or listen to my podcast on a regular basis, I guess you already bought some Bitcoin. And now the most important step is to keep the Bitcoin. Keep them secure in a hardware wallet. My personal recommendation for hardware wallet is the BitBox. It's super secure. It's simple to set up. It's also a perfect gift for a friend who has still their Bitcoin on an exchange. And you can get a 5% discount with the code Robin at the checkout. Visit bitbox.swiss/Robin to get your BitBox. And the next step is to really level up your sovereignty as an individual. You have to have the most secure self-custody setup. You have to secure your own devices. You have to protect your privacy. You have to set up an inheritance plan. And depending on where you live, you even want to have a plan B, a citizenship where you can move in case something goes really wrong. And through all those steps, the Bitcoin way is guiding you through step by step. And if you visit thebitcoinway.com/partners/Robin, you even get a 30-minute free call to find out how you can level up your sovereignty. Interesting, yeah. That's really cool. Maybe because we talked about DLCs so much and also Escrow, so maybe let's cover what those are. Because you currently use it, and we also had Firefish and Unchained already on, and they use an Escrow. What is an escrow, and then maybe later with the DLC?
Yeah, basically an escrow is a mediator, right? I don't know if we say that in English. Someone that will make sure everything works fine, and in the case of a dispute, will decide where the money needs to go. How does it work on the Bitcoin network? Really simple. You have a 2 out of 3 multisig. The escrow, generally the platform, it can be someone else also. It can be a mediator designated by your platform. It can be someone a user from this platform. He will have a key, and the two parties will have a key. Borrowers got a key, lender got a key, and the escrow, the mediator got a key. And in the case of a dispute, someone say, I repaid, but the lender did not sign for me to get my collateral back, or the lender say, hey, the borrower never paid me, so I won't let him withdraw the collateral. Then the escrow, the mediator will be able to question these people, ask questions, basically collect some data, maybe some proof, and will decide who to release the money to. I don't know if it was clear, but basically, yeah. Man in the middle, act as a trusted third party in the case some shit hits the fan.
Oh yeah, camera got. Wow,
is that better now?
Oh yeah, it was only very short. No worries.
So that's an escrow.
So it's basically just a 2 out of 3 multisig.
Yes. Sometimes you can have more sophisticated escrow as well. I think Firefish operates a 2 out of 4 multisig. and they basically have a key in the case the shit hits the fan, and they have, maybe it's better to ask them directly, but I think they have an oracle with a liquidation oracle with another key. So basically the minimum setup is to have a 2 out of 3, and then you can have more sophisticated setups.
Interesting. And what are now DLCs?
I will try to stay as simple as I can, but the DLC is the same thing. It's a kind of escrow, but instead of having a 2 out of 3 multisig, you will have a 2 out of 2 multisig. Basically, the lender will get a key, and the borrower will have a key. So when they make the contract, the money will go into a multisig, which belongs to both parties. The thing is, my camera is gone. Wait, what's happening? I don't know what's happening. Sorry. Basically, what will happen at the end of the deal? One of the party will have to sign and broadcast a transaction for him to withdraw, or if it's the lender, to liquidate. And since they have one key each, the issue needs to be collaborative, right? And if the shit hits the fan, someone is lying, someone is not collaborative, let's say, you have a fallback solution, which is an oracle. And oracle is what? Is let's say it's a program. And the program will sign cryptographic signatures every 5 minutes. On this example, on BTC USD price, right? And you need to have basically you need to have both parties collaborating, or you can have one party with an adapter signature. To complete the signature, you will have cryptographic information from the oracle. So basically, DLC works like that. Collaborative first. If collaboration doesn't work, the oracle will help to settle the situation without a middleman, right? It's just cryptography in the program. And sometimes people are concerned about oracles. First, oracles are blind and deaf to your bet. They don't know. They don't know you. They don't know your bet. They won't call you. That's not happening. Second, you can have several oracles. In the case of Bitcoin collateralized loans, you don't have to be very, very responsive. You can take some computation time, and then you can have a quorum of oracles, 5 oracles, 10 oracles, to make sure there is no mistake in the price feed, if it's what you're monitoring. And last but not least, if the oracle or the quorum of oracles doesn't work or doesn't respond as expected, you have a fallback mechanism, and then both parties got refund. That's the refund transaction. And yeah, this is basically DLC. If I wasn't clear, feel free to ask me more questions, because I don't know. I
think the interesting part is like what exactly the oracle is, like who it's not a person, it's a cryptographic, but like what that oracle is.
Okay, this oracle is just a program running and signing cryptographic signature, signing informations, strings, and strings of numbers and letters, cryptographic information. Basically, to get the money out of the DLC, you will have both signatures from lender or borrower. And if you don't have both signatures, one of the parties can broadcast the transaction with his signature plus the information given by the oracle. That's what we call adapter signatures.
But then, how does the oracle decide who gets the cryptographic signing? Like who gets the cryptographic information?
So this is, let's say, the setup that I explained to you is the basic DLC. So if I bet, let's say, Bitcoin will pump, you say Bitcoin will dump, then this oracle will be useful, right? In the case of Bitcoin collateralized loans, The oracle with the price feed will be useful in the case of a liquidation. Your collateral does not cover your LTV is too high, and the lender needs to liquidate your collateral in order to cover his loan. The oracle will be useful in that situation. In the case of Lendersat, and since you have two chains involved, you will have a DLC on Bitcoin to keep the collateral safe without a trusted third party, and in the case of a liquidation. And you will have on the other chain an HTLC. Oh my god, it's going technical. I'm not the best on this stuff, but HTLC is hash time locked contract, and basically it can be unlocked. The money can be unlocked with a hash. So same stuff, cryptographic string, cryptographic information, or a time lock. If after a certain time the data is not given, the cryptographic signature is not given, then it will go on one side or the other. So basically, too bad I don't have a blackboard. Bob and Alice decide to sign a contract. Alice will borrow and Bob will lend. Alice will put the collateral into a DLC, and Bob will put some stablecoins into a HTLC on an alt chain. The DLC is here to prove the money, the loan has been collateralized. And since Alice collateralized the DLC, she will have a cryptographic secret, and then she will be able to unlock the money in the HTLC. If she doesn't collateralize, if she doesn't put the money into the DLC, after a certain time, then the HTLC will be unlocked in favor of Bob, meaning she didn't put the money in. Bob can take the money from the loan back. Was it clear? I'm not sure. Oh my God.
It gets clearer. Is that only working with stablecoins? Like, for example, if the lender doesn't give me the fiat that I want, that probably only works with stablecoins, right?
It will never happen with fiat. Okay. The problem with fiat, it's a black box. You will have to trust the bank. You won't have any information from that bank. You cannot basically ask them to have an API or an oracle or whatever. They won't give you this information. So with the bank, you will be forced to work on an escrow model, right? Everything needs to work fine. And if shit hits the fan, then you will have an escrow say, hey, prove me you sent the money to the lender, etc. So, that's an interesting question, Robin. Why stablecoins? Because stablecoins is the same. A stablecoin is basically issued by a bank. Tether is a bank, and they are operating on alt chains. We can discuss about it. I don't trust them, but if stablecoins come to Bitcoin with RGB or whatever, we will integrate it happily. Anyways, why with stablecoins? Because stablecoins would allow us to create this synergy between the DLC on Bitcoin and the HTLC on the alt chain, meaning we can achieve trustless and automated relationship between the lender and the borrower. The transaction is basically permissionless, automated, and trustless. And this is the only way to achieve this without a middleman.
Interesting. So it works better with the stable coins because you can cryptographically prove if money has moved, and with fiat, as you said, it's a black box. That's really interesting.
We can also program. It means like HTLC on, as I said, the contract on Lendersat is DLC on Bitcoin, HTLC on the alt chain, and then we can program the relationship using both. Obviously, it is transparent. Everyone can verify it. And basically that's the way it works.
Yeah, I turned those reactions for those people only listening. Science just showed me a thumb up, and then like this bubble comes up. I always turn it off, and sometimes it gets turned on again, and I'm like why is it now? Because my camera actually freezes once the reaction is triggered. So like I have to then restart the camera and all the things. So it's really annoying. Obviously with you, it seems to work better with me.
And I think something I haven't mentioned before, because I mentioned alt chains, people will think about, Aave and other DeFi protocols. Lendersat does not work like that at all. There is no pools of liquidity. There's nothing comparable. Every contract is peer-to-peer and discrete. No one knows about it. And you cannot have exploits. It's fixed terms. Basically, if I and you sign a contract using Lendersat, only you and me will be able to know it. Even looking on-chain is difficult to know what's happening using discrete log contracts. That's why they are called discrete. And it's not someone exterior could not exploit this relationship. Things, the kind of things happening all the time in the DeFi ecosystem, because contracts are pools, are commune to a lot of people, and then it exposes you to counterparty risk, smart contracts, hack risk, economic exploits, chain risk with rollback or whatever on the alt chains. Yeah, thanks to the Lendersat system, you're not exposed to all of this at least.
Really cool. And also, it's probably also non-KYC and stuff like that.
Well, as I told you earlier, the goal is to have really a layer one of the protocol, which is permissionless. And permissionless means anyone can use it as long as you have a Bitcoin, and as long as you have stablecoins, you can use it without any further registration requirements. Let's say it like that. Of course, over time, and if we grow, maybe we will have other layers. It won't be called layers, right? But maybe we will have for institutionals or for some types of customers, KYC requirement or whatever. Maybe they will use, as I told you, spending tools and on-ramp, off-ramps which are KYC. But it is really important for us to have let's say, a layer one, which anyone can use without a KYC. And if you don't trust us on that, we aim to build an open source client, an open source software client. In the case of Doomsday, in the case we're being forced to block people without a KYC or whatever, to interact with the protocol without our front end. So that's the end goal, right?
Okay, so you are basically using an open source protocol, and your client is just one access point to that, and everyone can access this layer one Lendersat.
Well, to be 100% transparent, for now we are in beta, and the only way to access the protocol is using our web app and front end, of course. But once we will go public and release the full protocol, including DLCs, including HTLCs, yes, I have personally opened issues to the devs, so we can build a client that anyone can build at home and interact with the protocol without getting through our web app. That's really important, and I think it's also crucial to build a deep liquidity.
It's probably, especially for the European guys, something really interesting, because there is more and more, how's it called, the MiCA regulation and EU regulation coming down, and people are worried, okay, like, is Lendersat then tomorrow still here? And what happens with that? So you need kind of like those tools.
Well, I agree. And one thing to know is that Lendersat basically develops a protocol. And this protocol is peer-to-peer. So far, the MiCA regulation peer-to-peer operation are not concerned by MiCA regulations, basically. Our front end and basically the client, the web app, is what we call a blackboard. We do not take custody of the funds, etc. So we are not directly concerned by the MiCA regulation. But nothing is more uncertain than regulation. Things can change from the day to the other. So that's why I was talking about preventing, for a potential doomsday or whatever. We think it's important to have open source and free software clients that Europeans or anyone can use freely and transact with other people that will do the same.
As a European, are you hopeful for the Bitcoin European future?
No, not at all. As an European, I would advise people to consider moving if they are working in this business, moving abroad. And if you're not moving abroad, I would consider, basically find ways to not being targeted by the regulations and all these problems. I mean, you know it. You're a Bitcoiner. As long as you're operating on peer-to-peer, you don't have any troubles with these regulations. So these regulations for now are the problem of the big platforms, custodians. You have a few non-custodial companies that are regulated and will be regulated as well. But as an individual, you should avoid interacting with platforms as much as you can.
True that. You're also consulting other Bitcoin companies. You're also involved in other things. What else are you doing in Bitcoin?
Well, it's been a while since I didn't do anything else than the Lendersat. But before that, I was consulting for 1010.1. I think you received Philip from 1010.1 on your podcast. And basically, we were building self-custodial future contracts, Bitcoin future trading, right? And I also consulted on a project linked to that, which was the self-custodial USD on Lightning, self-custodial USD circulating on Lightning. And before that, I worked with different companies for punctual missions, which I won't disclose on this podcast.
Which is fine.
Oh, and on the side, I'm also an entrepreneur, and I motivate everyone to do the same. I got a personal take, nothing linked with Lendersat, 1010.1, Robin's here, but I think Bitcoin is the best solution to try an idea as an entrepreneur before getting further. If you have an idea, you can try it on the internet, and as long as you accept Bitcoin as a payment method, you can try your idea, benchmark it, bootstrap it, and then create a company later if it works. But I think that's one of the most underrated features of Bitcoin. Since it's permissionless, you can benchmark and test entrepreneurs' ID, company's ID, brand ID, just with a Bitcoin and a website, basically. So I created a brand, a hot sauce brand called Spice Toshi, and I sold hot sauce because I love hot sauce to Bitcoiners, and it worked well so far. So then I'm considering opening a company and selling hot sauce for Bitcoin.
I love that. Yeah, it's kind of a revolution of like you just need a domain, and the money part is Bitcoin. You don't need anything else. Like the company lives in cyberspace already if you have a domain and Bitcoin as your single source of thing.
Look, so far with traditional payment processor, it required you a company. You needed to have a company, right? With Bitcoin, you can install Phoenix D. I don't know if you know Phoenix D, but whatever. Any Lightning payment processor. You need a domain, a good ID, and with these three components, you can start a company, like a project, let's say, and benchmark if it can make money, if it works, if people love it. You can iterate until it works, and once you're satisfied, then go for a company and go full speed. But Bitcoin allows anyone to become a creator of value and an entrepreneur. And I never hear that. And I think it's one of the most important things.
Really cool. I asked each and every one of my guests one question, and this the question of what can we learn from you besides Bitcoin?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I think I would have stuff to teach in cuisine. I'm a good cook. Shout out to Satoshi's Kitchen. I wrote 3 recipes in his book. It's a book that was released for Christmas. Basically, only Bitcoiners with recipes. A cookbook, a cooking book. I don't know how to say that in English, but yeah, it's a really cool project. So yeah, what we can learn from me, I guess I could teach 2 or 3 things in cuisine, in sports, but yeah, what do you mean? What can we learn about me?
I think that was already good. This was already good. We learned something new about you, and people go in different directions with that question, and you kind of answered it already.
Okay. Yeah, I think. Okay, I will go full speed in the direction I took previously, but after Bitcoin and after money, you need to reappropriate yourself, your living, including the food, including what you buy, to who you buy it. And I think, to me it's really important. Sport, the body, the health, and the food. What do you buy? What do you put in your body? What food do you give to your children? How is it cooked? And don't trust verify. There's no better way to do it than do it yourself.
I love that. That's a great saying. We have an end routine in the podcast where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the question from the previous guest is, what is the silliest misconception you ever heard about Bitcoin from a non-coiner?
Oh, that's a tough one because I don't listen to no-coiners. I would say the classic one, right? Bitcoin sounds good, but it's not real. I love things that I can touch, like, banknotes. I hear that all the time. Maybe it's not the best, but I think it's one of the, it's the one I hate the most.
Yeah, that's a really bad one. Like that's one that is really silly. Yeah, thank you so much, Science, for being on. Before I let you go, where can people find you, ask you questions, and reach out to you?
Well, I'm on X, obviously, Science Genial. Maybe you will tag me on that. I have a podcast, but it's in French. I'm not sure your listeners will come and enjoy, but if they do, my pleasure. The podcast is called Le Bunker, and we talk about traveling, expatriation, tax avoidance, and Bitcoin. And basically that's it. I'm on Nostr as well, and feel free to send me a message if you have any question, anything that would make me laugh. I would love to receive your messages, guys. That's it.
I just looked it up. I have 0.9% of my audience in France.
I might be in this 0.9%, not gonna lie.
So there are some people in France. I think like around 1,000 people, something like that. But yeah, it's a market that is a little bit smaller for me. Germany is a really cool, big, also with 5%.
Yes.
Australia is also good. Canada, obviously, America and UK are the 2 big ones. But yeah, thank you so much, Science, for being on. Thank you so much for for taking the time. Also, thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Bye bye.